She vanished without a trace, and for years no one knew what had happened to her until the renovation team found her inside the wall of her own home. She lived alone in an old house with creaky floorboards and narrow crawl spaces. One day she went missing. No signs of struggle, no forced entry. She was simply gone. Years later, during renovations, workers heard something strange, the faint rattle of bones behind the wall. When they tore it open, they found her remains wedged between the floorboards and the wall cavity. She had fallen through a weak spot and had got trapped with no way out. For years she was right there, hidden inside her own home, while her family searched the world for her. It is a haunting reminder that sometimes the answers we're looking for are much closer than we think. Would you ever want to know what secrets your house is hiding? Because sometimes the walls remember everything. December 1900. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse. 3 experienced keepers vanished without a trace. The lighthouse, miles off the coast of Scotland, was only staffed by 3 men: Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur. When a relief ship finally arrived, no one was there to greet them. The flag was down. The gate seemingly locked from the inside. Inside, the scene was chilling. The keepers' beds were unmade. A plate of food was laid on the table, and the bird cage stood empty. The biggest clue: 2 of the 3 heavy waterproof coats were still on their hooks. Why would 3 men walk into a violent raging storm without protection? The final log entry spoke of an enormous storm and intense fear, but the relief crew reported no storm in the area. The final line in the log entry: God is over all. Decades of official investigations concluded a freak wave might have swept them away, but for many, the truth remains. Trapped on that island, what really happened to the keepers of the Flannan Isles Lighthouse? Hi. Today I'm not talking about any bizarre history or weird old event. No haunted castles, no mysterious disappearances, because this time we're heading somewhere entirely different, somewhere above us. I'm talking about something most people don't even know exists, something floating right above our heads every single day. Space junk. Yeah, it's real. Right now, Earth is surrounded by a cloud of man-made debris, dead satellites, broken rocket parts, and bits of metal just drifting around in orbit. Space agencies are actually tracking over 40,000 objects up there. And get this, only about 11,000 of them are still working. Crazy. The rest are just trash, left over from decades of space missions. But here's where it gets wild. That number doesn't even include the small stuff. Things like boats, flakes of paint, and fragments you can't even see. When scientists add those up, they estimate that there are over 1 million pieces bigger than a centimeter, and hundreds of millions of smaller ones, all zipping around Earth at nearly 17,000 miles per hour. At that speed, even something as small as a paint chip hits like a bullet. Imagine that. One tiny piece of junk could puncture a hole in a satellite or pierce the space station, and every time 2 bits of debris crash into each other, they shatter into even more fragments, which crash into more things, and before you know it, we've got a full-on chain reaction. Crazy. Scientists call it the Kessler syndrome. Basically, space turning into one big cosmic junkyard. And honestly, I sometimes wonder to myself, if aliens ever stopped by to check us out, what would they think? A planet surrounded by its own trash, orbiting in a glittering halo of garbage. It's funny, honestly, but also kind of sad. Anyways, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's keep digging into the crazy mind-blowing stuff most people don't even realize exists. Hey, this is a follow-up shot on trash, but this particular trash is a special kind of trash. It is not like the previous trash that's floating above us. this particular trash is floating around us. Now, just between California and Japan lies what scientists call the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a swirling mass of plastics, fishing nets, bottles, and microplastics just drifting around endlessly in the sea. And get this, it is not a small island of trash. It's actually 3 times the size of France. What? To give you a sense of the scale, imagine an area so wide you could literally sail for days and be surrounded by floating trash. The mere fact that it has "great" attached to its name should even give you some perspective. Anyways, get this. The patch is not solid. It's like a massive plastic soup. Scientists estimate that there are around 1.8 trillion pieces of plastic in that region alone. That's about 250 pieces of plastic or 250 pieces of trash for every single human being on Earth, excluding myself, of course. Most of it comes from land, which includes rivers carrying our waste, dumped trash, lost fishing gear, all caught in ocean currents called gyres, like tires with a G. Once it's in, it just spins there for years, decades, maybe even centuries, who knows. Marine life gets trapped, birds choke on bottle caps, fish eat tiny plastic particles, and those same fish end up on our plates. The irony. Yes, yeah. The ocean's trash once again becomes our trash. The cycle of life. The scary part is we created this. Every straw, every plastic bag, every single-use plastic item you have ever thrown away without a second thought of where it might end up, all have, by some semblance of a chance, found its way to the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. The ocean does not forget. It just keeps collecting and keeping it all like souvenirs. If aliens ever visited our planet and saw this, they'll probably think we all worship plastic, because it is everywhere, even in your blood. But there is a slither of hope in all this. Organizations are actually out there right now, like the Ocean Cleanup Project, using massive nets to collect and recycle all this trash. Honestly, it is slow, it is tedious, but it is a start. If this made you think twice about where your trash ends up, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already.
The Union Carbide insecticide plant has been closed, of course, now. Outside, vultures devour the carcasses of animals killed by the fumes. Doctors are working around the clock at hospitals that are filled to overflowing.
It is the night of December 2nd, 1984. The townsfolk of Bhopal, India are fast asleep. Parents, children, workers, all resting after a long day. But unbeknownst to them, in the pesticide plant at the edge of town, something was about to go down. Something that would change the course of their lives forever. Within hours, the air itself would turn into a weapon, and the city of Bhopal would become the site of the world's deadliest industrial disaster. Deep inside the Union Carbide pesticide plant, a subsidiary of the American Union Carbide Corporation, no surprises there of course, a tank known as Tank 610 was heating up uncontrollably. Water had leaked into it, triggering a violent chemical reaction. This leak caused a pressure increase inside the tank so fast, no one could stop it. And then, it happened. 40 tons of methyl isocyanate gas burst out into the night air. Now, some trivia before we continue. Methyl isocyanate, or MIC as it is commonly called, is an extremely toxic and highly reactive chemical compound used primarily as an intermediate in the production of carbamate pesticides, polyurethane foam, and plastics. So what this means is, it is what you get first during production before you arrive at any of the previously mentioned final products. It's a volatile, colorless liquid at room temperature that quickly evaporates into a heavy gas, which can be difficult to disperse. In essence, it is basically a very poisonous chemical compound used to make everyday products like insecticides, foam, and plastics. Now, back to the story. The gas crept silently through the streets of Bhopal, rolling low and invisible. A toxic fog that burned the eyes, choked the lungs, and turned breath into agony. People woke up coughing, gasping for air. They ran blindly through the darkness, but there was nowhere to run to. The air itself had betrayed them. By dawn, thousands lay dead. Animals filled the roads. Hospitals overflowed with the dying and the desperate. Entire families were gone. Official reports spoke of 15,000 deaths, but locals believe the number was far higher. Investigations revealed the unthinkable: faulty safety systems, poor maintenance, and a company that ignored every single fucking warning sign. Even today, the scars remain. The soil and water are still tainted, children are still being born with deformities, and survivors are still waiting for justice. The Bhopal gas tragedy wasn't just an accident. It was a human-made nightmare, a lesson written in poison, and a reminder of what happens when profits outweighs humanity. Don't forget to subscribe. What if I told you? A lake. Yes. A quiet, unassuming, peaceful body of water, without flooding, without drowning, without poisoning, and of course, without warning, once killed over 1,000 people in a single night. This is the horrifying story behind the Lake Nyos disaster. In 1986, Lake Nyos in Cameroon looked calm, but beneath that surface was a hidden volcano, slowly leaking carbon dioxide into the deep water. Over the years, the CO2 gas dissolved and collected at the bottom, pressurized, trapped, and completely invisible. Scientists call this a stratified lake. Warm water on top, cold, dense CO2 gas-loaded water at the bottom. This setup is stable and balanced until something disturbs it. One night, something, maybe a landslide, maybe a sudden temperature shift, shook the lake just enough to break this balance. And when the balance was broken, the lake basically uncorked. The deep water shot upward, depressurized, and released the CO2 gas in seconds. Think of opening a shaking bottle of Coke, except the bottle is a lake and the gas is deadly. This event has a name. It's called a limnic eruption. A massive plume of pure CO2 gas burst out of the lake and rolled down the valleys. CO2 gas is heavier than normal air, so instead of rising, it hugged the ground beneath like a creeping fog. As it spread, it pushed oxygen away. What followed was silent and terrifying. People in nearby villages simply did not wake up come morning. No explosion, no sound, just an invisible wave of air that couldn't be breathed. Animals collapsed where they stood. Fires and lanterns went out instantly. The air wasn't supporting combustion anymore. By morning, the entire region was unnaturally quiet. Over 1,700 people and thousands of livestock died from asphyxiation, which basically means not breathing enough oxygen. When rescuers arrived, many victims were found exactly where they had been the night before, still in bed, still holding tools, still sitting by fires that had gone out. The lake looked calm again, hiding the violence beneath it. Today, engineers have placed degassing pipes deep inside Lake Nyos, constantly releasing small amounts of CO2 gas, so pressure never builds up again. But Lake Nyos isn't the only lake in the world with this danger, and that's what makes this story truly horrifying. Sometimes, the deadliest disasters don't come from lakes, from lavas or explosions. They come from something unassuming and almost peaceful. See you on the next one. Don't forget to subscribe. Ciao.